Hello, hello, hello. It is 4:06 p.m. on Monday, March 17th, 2025. Mark Kulak, QSonic Live. A video short here, and you can surmise from the title what we are going to be reviewing. This is actually an article from a few days ago, March 10th, 2025. Hopefully I said 2025. On NPR National Public Radio. Deadliest phase of fentanyl crisis eases as all states see recovery. And the good news, I guess, is that the total number of fatal drug overdoses was down in the last year. I'll read what it says, and I add some commentary to it. And this actually leads into something that Jonathan Couey said that I need to clarify it. Okay, we're going to work on him, make sure he says this right. Again, or at least so that he understands my position on this. The article reads, the deadliest phase of the street fentanyl crisis appears to have ended as drug deaths continue to drop at an unprecedented pace. For the first time, all 50 states and the District of Columbia now have seen at least some recovery. Well, first off, I don't like the use of the word recovery here, all right? It suggests that somehow the people are coming back to life. If you had 2 children killed in 1 year and then only 1 child killed in the next year, you wouldn't say, hey, it's 50% recovery. It's still a death. So I mean, it's a lessening of the tragedy. It's less numbers now, but this is a very deceptive use of the word. I don't like the use of the word recovery here. A new analysis of United States overdose data conducted by research at the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill also found that the decline in deaths began much earlier than once understood, suggesting improvements may be sustainable. That's interesting. Now, I used very sound projections on what the expected number of deaths was going to be in 2024, and suddenly the numbers are just like 10 or 20,000 less. It's very odd. I'm not sure I believe them, nor am I necessarily certain that that they are wrong either, or they can't be right. But I'm surprised, okay, because all the projections and just anecdotally. Knowing how many people have died around here, people that I've known of. So they have a map here. It goes on to say, a Nabarun Das Gupta said, quote, this is not a blip. We are on track to return to levels of fatal overdose before fentanyl emerged. We are on track. In other words, we are still at record levels of people dying, but we're having less people dying now than we did the previous years, and therefore we're going to get back to what was all the way back maybe in the year 2000 and 1999 as the unacceptable, horrible numbers of people dying of drug overdoses. So it's this, putting this in a positive way I'm not saying that it's bad that less people have died, but to just throw out there these positive, rosy interpretations. So he is the lead, or she, I apologize, lead researcher on the project which examined fatal overdoses from the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. And I know that these people don't seem to be talking to many people that I know of in the community of people who've lost family members to drug overdoses. So Das Gupta's team found deaths linked to fentanyl and other street drugs have already plunged in many states to levels not seen in the year 2020. However, 2020, I'll let you know, was a record year at that time. So 2020 was, I think it was 78 or 80,000. That was the all-time record, up like 15% from the next previous all-time record. And these are not cumulative numbers. These are horrible numbers. So going back to the all-time record just a few years ago is horrible. We should be doing much better. But again, it's better, I guess, than getting worse. Eventually, we're going to run out of people to get killed. But So it goes on. After all this time looking at overdose deaths, this is what we've been hoping for. It's a complete shock to see the numbers declining the way we have been. Fewer deaths as drug users adapt and use Narcan. It suggests that this treatment, which everyone should have available if you have kids, even if you're certain they don't do drug overdoses. There's just been contaminated products around. There's people have died who've not been drug users, or regular drug users, or did use drugs one time stupidly with the wrong people and something was laced. Or maybe your children's friends has a friend who has a problem that you don't know about. You should have Narcan. You should know how to administer it. It suggests that drug users adapt Narcan. That's why it's going down. I don't think so. I suspect that the use of Narcan itself is probably also slightly down. And and there's a whole lot more here that you can read. Could U.S. return to normal drug death levels not seen since fentanyl hit? It might. It might. And I think that's all I really need to read from this article here. I've said multiple times, and I'm thankful that Jonathan Couey is on board with this part, that the number of fatal drug overdose deaths is ridiculous, and it has such an enormous impact, as I've demonstrated, on demographics of the United States, on life expectancy, and how this data was available, or this data was used as part of creating the deadly novel virus narrative. Calling a motorcycle accidents and COVID and flu deaths COVID deaths doesn't kill anyone. People talk about that as if it's so conspiratorial, but that doesn't kill anybody. But the total number of deaths were going up. How does that happen unless people are dying? More people are dying because it's either expected, there's your demographic curves, or there were other tragedies going on, such as fatal drug overdoses, fentanyl in particular, and hospital protocols related to COVID. There you go. And there might be some related to the medical countermeasures which have been used and designed, the mRNA transfections, vaccines, in response to COVID. But there's your excess deaths. So this horrible tragedy has been hidden. I mean, people have heard about it, but they don't understand the extent of it. They haven't been able to characterize it. And I want this to be clear, all right? I'm not just saying that there's too many drug overdoses and they need to be factored in. And I know people aren't necessarily all going to agree with this, okay? I'm suspecting that there was an intentional poisoning of drugs in the United States, and possibly even products such as marijuana, with the intent to kill people, to create the data. That's what I'm saying. I'm suggesting that there might even have been people affiliated with agencies of the United States government that didn't just ignore the drug epidemic. I'm saying that it was encouraged, allowed, fueled with the express purpose to murder Americans, to create the data to suggest we had a deadly novel virus. That's what I'm saying. This is another step. I provided data because, I'm way before anyone else on this, in 2014 and 15, that showed that the number of drug overdoses rates, fatal drug overdose rates in the United States, had a very high correlation of red voting counties in swing states. Drug overdose fatalities, percentage-wise, were actually lower in all blue states and all red states. They were highest in swing states, but they weren't high in blue districts of swing states. And I made the suggestion that there might have actually been known, maybe even people working with the FBI, who knows, poisoning of Americans with the intent to murder them, to adjust demographics. A few thousand here, a few hundred over there. Before you know it, you can actually shape voting patterns. And with respect to COVID, I think it was taken to another level. And I don't know who was used or which agencies were involved, but I'm suggesting that it was actual, intentional, state-sanctioned murder. There's no reason for people from Mexico or Central America to come to the United States and kill Americans with fentanyl. However, clearly, if it wasn't for the fact that I have such an abundant quantity of unambiguous evidence that shows that the narrative controllers went out of their way to deny that the opioid epidemic was even happening, the fact that my most censored videos were the ones which suggested fatal drug overdoses were used as part of the data to drive the deadly novel virus narratives. Those are my most censored videos. I am suggesting that this drug epidemic, and I've actually suggested before that sometime maybe in 23 or 24 or 25, the overdoses may start going down. Because if they don't, well, then you can't point to something on a chart that says, "Hey, look at how life expectancy went down there. It had something to do with warp speed and transfection in the novel virus." I was expecting this to happen. Now, of course, I want this to happen, obviously, and you should too, but I don't want it lost. The little nuance of what I'm saying. Hopefully, Jonathan Couey can get that part right. And if he disagrees, well, that's fine. We don't agree on everything. But I wanted you guys to hear that. By the way, I was unable to broadcast right now on Twitch. I don't know what's going on. But it is what it is, so was only able to say this on YouTube. So that's my quick video short. Hey, you know what? I'll take the good news, but I just had to make sure that you understood the severity of what I'm saying. All of you, my listeners, my haters, Jonathan Couey, and some other people that I've been working with. So that's it for now. Thank you. Take care, everyone. God bless.